Do 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 do. But do boom boom, don't boom, don't boom, don't don't, bow bow. Clicking on things. I'm doing stuff. Ah, what on earth is this? Ow. That's better. Uh, 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 do, 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 do. There we go. If you're hanging out, this is a real simple, casual thing. I'm recording 2 shorter shows today, and figure I'd live stream while I do them, because that's just kind of part of my workflow now. Doing everything through Rumble Studio because it just works nice. Put some stuff down here. Some of my keys jingling around. All right, I got that and that. Boop 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 boop. All right. Let's go like this. I'm gonna talk like you can hear what I'm doing. Because you can, cause I'm talking about it. And I'm doing a thing. Doing things, it is pretty cool. Things are cool to do. All right, I'll do that one right there. And then, so when we go over here, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Beautiful, beautiful. My nose itches. Will anything crack if I go like this? No, disappointing. That's okay. I'll get a good crack later. So yeah, I'm gonna do 2 shows here. The first one's going to be very, very short. It is literally just going to be a video reminding people that Linux Sucks is happening on Thursday. That's it. That's the whole thing, and where they can watch and all that. It's just a little tiny clip, a little video of fanciness that I'm going to be putting up on everywhere. I'm gonna stick it up on YouTube and Rumble and Twitter and those sorts of things, just to remind folks of where they can grab it. The second show is an actual honest to goodness show, and I'm looking. I'm trying to. Behold, as Lunduke thinks about things on camera. Yeah. The second one is is going to be me talking about Now I'm torn. Now I'm torn about the second one. Because the second one, there's a topic I wanted to talk about a little bit that is going over the motivation that tech companies have when they advertise on a news platform, right? In a news publication, print or YouTubers or podcasters or anywhere, what their actual motivation is. Having spent, years behind the scenes, I think it's a little different than what a lot of people assume it is. Yeah, we're gonna do a show about it. We're gonna do a little show around it, and that'll be fun. That'll be fun because I like to do that sort of thing. But first, we're going to do this. We're going to do a quick reminder around Linux Sucks. Nothing fancy. Those of you over on Locals, you already know all this information, but other people in other parts of the internetiverse, they don't know because they're in the wrong location. So we got to help them out there. All right, let me resize a few things here. Whoa, that looks pretty good. All right, that should be good. That looks pretty good. That'll do that which I need it to do, and I'm happy about it. So that's all there is to that. Um, yeah, I'm gonna go like this. Just kind of testing this, seeing how quickly that toggles. Man, they're really making Rumble Studio nicer lately. Oh, here, while we're at it, I'm gonna play around and see if the on-screen live chat is working. It's still not working. Still not working right. Still all busted up. That's okay. They'll fix that. They'll fix that. That was just a test. All right. Solid. All right, so we're just gonna record this live. Get yourself ready. This is gonna be great. This Thursday at 4 p.m. Central is Linux Sucks 2024. This is the 13th year that I've done Linux Sucks. There's like 2 years where I didn't do a Linux Sucks, but this is the 13th time I'll have done Linux Sucks. Holy heavens, that's crazy. I don't know if it's an unlucky number or what, but it's going to be awesome. And it's happening on Thursday. This Thursday, February 8th at 4 p.m. Central. Here, I've converted that to UTC. That's 10 p.m. UTC if you are not in the Lord's time zone of Central Time. It is going to be absolutely a bonkers show. It is going to be streamed live for free on lunduke.locals.com, on Rumble, on Lunduke, the Lunduke Rumble channel, as well as on Twitter and on YouTube. It is going to be streamed on all 4 platforms at the exact same time, and it's going to be performed live. I haven't recorded it yet. There's no editing in this. There's no pre-recorded. I don't get multiple takes in this. One take. And if I screw it up, it'll simply be epically bad. I'm really looking forward to this. I've been jonesing to do this show since last year. We didn't have a Linux Sucks last year. Last year we had a Mac OS Sucks, and that was a great show. But this year is Linux Sucks 2024. At the 13th time we're going to be doing this. It is going to be a fantastically fun time. So tune in if you can make it on one of those live streaming platforms. You'll have a great time. My recommendation is to watch it either on Rumble or Locals. That's where most of the cool kids are going to be hanging out. And yes, if you are on Rumble or Locals, I will see your heckling of me in real time. So if you're in the chat rooms, I will see you heckling me live. There's nothing quite as great as doing these shows in front of a live studio audience, right? Being at a convention filled with Linux nerds and doing this show. I still fondly remember some of the earlier Linux Sucks when literally people from SUSE and Fedora and whatnot would just start heckling me from the audience when they felt like I got stuff wrong. I love those moments. So this is not as great as that. This isn't as great as being able to heckle me in person, but you can still heckle me via chat, which is pretty good. So that's fantastic. If you cannot make the live show, it will be recorded and you will be able to watch the recording for free at Locals. So at lunduke.locals.com. Here, so I've got a little list of things you should do to get yourself ready. First, Get an account on lunduke.locals.com. You don't have to pay for an account. Just get a free account. If you want to pay for an account and fund the work I do, because I don't take money from any tech company ever, please do it. And that would make me smile. But you don't have to. You can just grab a free account. And if you grab a free account at lunduke.locals.com, you can watch the recorded version of Linux Sucks 2024 with no advertising, with no tracking, with no YouTube selling your biometric data and whatnot off to every highest bidder company government on the planet. You can just enjoy the show for what it is. So that's where that's going to be. So it will be available about 5 or 6 hours, give or take, after the event. The recorded version will show up over at lunduke.locals.com. Get the free account so that you can watch it. You have to have an account there to watch it. It's just how it's set up and works, but it's worth it. Go grab it. Now, if you want to watch a few of the past Linux Sucks shows, just, to get warmed up or to kind of figure out what all this is about, like you're kind of new to the Linux Sucks world, some of these shows have been watched millions of times. It's crazy. Go to lunduke.com. On lunduke.com, kind of near the top, I have a link to an article that you all can have access to that lists every single recorded Linux Sucks show ever made in chronological order. I've got the dates next to them and everything. So you can watch all of them in order if you want. If you start now, you should be done. You can just binge watch it, right? You just sit down on the couch and just be like, you know what? Forget watching Supernatural or West Wing or whatever you're binge watching on the Netflixinators. Just sit down and watch Linux Sucks from start to finish, all right there. All of them are up, again, on lunduke.locals.com, and all of them are free to watch. You don't have to pay to watch any of these things. It's all free thanks to all of the wonderful subscribers that support the work I do. And there's a link there. They're all in order. Have a great time. That said, if you just have a little bit of time to get caught up on all the Linux sucksiness, I recommend personally catching the 2016 show and the 2022 show, because the 2016 show was fun because it had Richard Stallman was in it, and Piers Anthony was in it, and Cory Doctorow was in it, and Jim Whitehurst, who was then the CEO of Red Hat, was in it. I mean, that was kind of like the celebrity edition of Linux Sucks. So that made it kind of fun, right? And we recorded that. That was recorded in front of an audience of close to about 1,000 people were watching that one live right in front of me. So that one was a lot of fun. However, the 2017 show is also a pretty good show because in that one, I actually go over some of the history of things that I've said in past Linux Sucks. So that one's kind of fun. So those are the ones I recommend as primers if you want to get yourself ready. But if you want to go back to the beginning and watch the humble beginnings where I literally struggle to get a projector using VGA out working before the Linux Sucks show can start. I spent 15 minutes trying to get it working for one show, and we have video of that. That's how we start off the Linux Sucks series. It's fantastic. If you want to go all the way back there and watch that ridiculousness, it's all there. It's all there, recorded at a bunch of different conferences and venues over the years, and there's just lots and lots of fun. The third thing you're going to want to do is get yourself some snacks and drinks ready for Thursday at 4 p.m. when we're going to be rocking this show out. You're going to want grab some popcorn or something, right? This is a show. It's a fun show. There's going to be tears. There's going to be laughter. It's going to be a roller coaster ride. And I highly recommend grabbing some snacks so you can really enjoy the experience. Turn the lights down low, pump it up on your big screen, and just go nuts with it. Just so everyone knows exactly how this is going to work. The show is an hour long, so it will begin at 4 p.m. Central Time, 10 p.m. UTC. It will last for roughly 1 hour. I was kind of thinking it through in my head and mocking it through, and I think I have about 56, 57 minutes, something like that. So roughly 1 hour. When I'm doing it live, I could speed up, I could slow down, I could add stuff. It could end up going over, who knows, but roughly an hour. The live stream will start 30 minutes prior to showtime. So at about 9:30 p.m. UTC is when the live stream will start. There won't be a whole lot going on with that, but you can hang out and chat with everybody. There'll be some slides up on the live stream so you can watch it and just kind of goof off and have a good time. Get warmed up for when the show hits. And there you go. That's the details. I hope you're able to join because it is going to be an absolute blast. I'm really looking forward to this one. This is one of those things. I mean, it's the biggest show of the year potentially. Though I do have some other stuff planned, but this is the biggest show that I currently have planned, and this is definitely the Linux sucks for this year. There won't be another one. So get yourself a subscription to lunduke.locals.com or just a free account so that you can watch the recorded version and you can stream it there as well. It's going to be fantastic. If you stream it on Locals, you will not get interrupted with any ads. So if you're streaming it on YouTube, there's a chance you might get interrupted with ads because YouTube is awful. I hate YouTube. But go over to Locals and you don't have to have any interruptions. You just boom, you get the show and you can just have a blast. All right, everybody, that's it. Join me Thursday, February 8th. 4 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. UTC for Linux Sucks 2024. This is going to suck more than anything has sucked before. There we go. That's it. All right, now we need to talk about the next thing. Yes. Yes, we're going to talk about the other thing. All right, let me click on a few things here. All right, stop that. I don't need that right now. One more show, but it's an actual show. Actual show. Actual show. Actual show. KP Craftster asks, when will Locals accept payment options that don't involve giving them your credit card number? You mean like dollar bills? Like I honestly don't know what that would be. You mean like crypto stuff? It's such a pain for people to use. Like I tried using crypto for a while for accepting crypto for things, and it was just such an absolute pain. And then when I was publishing videos over on the Library and Odyssey network, I got their form of crypto, and cashing that out was an absolute nightmare, and I lost a huge amount of money in that process. It's just there's so many easy ways to use a credit or debit card number. There's even systems where you can put money into it or get prepaid cards that don't even necessarily have ties to you as a person. You know what I mean? You can buy them with pennies. You could go down to like a Walmart or something and buy a prepaid card and pennies or something, and you can do it. So I don't know. It would be cool. It certainly would be cool. The more payment options you can take, like I assume crypto is what you're referring to. I mean, that's awesome. But the downsides are so extreme. It's just there's so many downsides. It's just so difficult to use. It just is. I'm sorry. I've yet to find a crypto system where I can do like a crypto subscription for something, and it's not an absolute nightmare for me as a user to jump through the hoops on. Yeah, KP Craftster. Yeah, prepaid gift cards. You just get prepaid cards. Like you can get prepaid Visa cards, prepaid MasterCards. You can get all sorts of prepaid cards. You can buy them. You can buy them online and have them shipped to you. You can buy them. Every country I've ever been in has things like that. Great. Gabe just mentioned in the chat room, or you can visit privacy.com. Privacy.com has options for setting up things like that for doing exactly that. So check out privacy.com. It's kind of like, you know, It works. It allows you to do all that stuff. And Microworks makes the point. Crypto is like paying 25 cents and the receiver getting 5 cents, because chances are that's when the crash is going to happen. Well, plus you end up it ends up taking longer. Some of it just janks out. It's really easy to commit fraud. Every single, and I'm not saying that like I'm anti crypto. I actually kind of like crypto, but what I've found is when I was selling stuff and taking crypto for it, a lot of people, there was a lot of fraud that happened, and it was very difficult to do, and so it just caused a lot of problems, and I just didn't like it. Plus, there's a bit of a lag, and there's a huge amount of overhead. You basically have to do like these basically additional processing fees on top of everything else, which I know there's processing fees for cards and whatnot, but there's nothing like what I experienced on the crypto side of things. Yeah, it's yeah. Anyway, I get it though. If having a card in wherever you live is difficult, there's not a whole lot I can do with that. I the vast majority, whether you're in China or South Africa or Brazil or Canada or Australia or any European nation, it works fine. You can find a way to get some sort of a prepaid card, even like that, or privacy.com or something like that to pay with a card. There's not a whole lot I can do about it. You know what I mean? I recognize that there's going to be some people that are going to have a difficult time getting that working because of whatever they're dealing with in life or whatever part of the world they live in. But that's such the minority. There's not a whole lot I can do about that. In fact, maybe one or two people have ever brought that up as a concern. All right. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to record a show talking about marketing, tech marketing, and what the motivation is behind a lot of tech marketing. This is just a topic that I've no problem, KP Crafter. I recognize that people, everyone's got their own little niche issues, right? Like there's some people that have a difficult time paying in certain ways. There's some people that only want to use a certain browser on a certain operating system. There's always going to be people who, including myself, who have very specific needs. Sometimes it can be accommodated for and helped. Sometimes it just really can't effectively. We do our best. So we're going to talk about this now. This is a topic that I think deserves to be talked about a little bit, and I'm just going to kind of go through it a bit with you guys here. So follow along with me. Let me see, is this going to work? Boink! All right, there we are. When a software company or a computer company or a big enterprise tech company is advertising on a website, right? They put up their big banner ads that say, buy this IBM cold fusion, reactor database, blah, 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 blah. What's the purpose of that? I mean, this may sound like a silly question to ask, but follow along with me here. What is the purpose of that? Now, many of you will say, well, if a software or services or computer company is advertising, it's because they want to get new customers, right? They want to get new clients. They want people to buy their product, right? That's interesting because it's not really the case. Now, I've worked in tech marketing for years now. I've worked in tech marketing for big Linux companies and hardware companies. I've been in the trenches in marketing, and I've been up at the highest executive level in marketing. And let me tell you right now, there is a very dirty little secret when it comes to marketing. And this doesn't just apply to the tech world, but I'm going to talk about it from the tech world point of view because that's where I worked. But that dirty secret is this. The purpose, the primary purpose, and there's secondary goals, but the primary purpose of big tech companies advertising on tech journalist websites, tech news sites, tech publications, and that could be YouTubers, podcasters, news sites, articles, etc. The primary driving force for doing that advertising is to buy the journalists covering them. That is the number one goal, to make sure that when really bad stories hit, that those journalists, those outlets will either A, not cover the bad story, or B, they will cover it in such a way that makes the big tech company look good. And I'm going to be very clear about this a little bit because I've done this. I've worked in the big tech companies, specifically working to buy off the journalists. Me, I did this. And every other person who has any level of success in the marketing world specifically thinks about this every single day. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples here. Right now, there are many big tech stories happening. And I'm not going to go into the details about all of them, but there are some big tech stories happening that are salacious. They are crazy. They're off the charts. They're the kind of things that would generate clicks, that would generate good viral headlines. And yet, despite these crazy, salacious, meaty, juicy, steamy stories happening, stuff that's just off the charts and makes just the worst headlines for the companies. And these companies these stories are happening about are things like IBM and Red Hat and Microsoft and Amazon, crazy stuff. And yet, you go to Wired or ZDNet or The Register or any of the big tech news sites, really any tech news site that takes marketing dollars, and not one of them are covering any of those stories. Not one of them. Not one. Now, so this isn't just a matter of editorial decisions of, oh, what stories are interesting. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. They are specifically not touching these stories that would be the most damaging to the people that put the food on the table for these companies. Almost all of these companies take money directly from IBM, Red Hat, Microsoft, Amazon, and the others, either through direct, specifically set up paid sponsorship programs, or through things like advertising networks like Google AdSense, where the ad money flows in that way. One way or the other, these companies specifically buy influence over all of these journalists. Now that's just now a lot of you out there, including some journalists, are getting your feathers ruffled right now because you're saying, well, that doesn't prove anything. You know what does prove things? When you talk to people in marketing. Because when you talk to people in marketing, this is what we do. This is the goal. I mean, this is the end all be all goal. And it's not just done through paying for advertising on the tech news sites or the tech publications or the tech podcasts or the tech YouTube channels, though that is the primary way of doing it. It's also done by other mechanisms that other people don't see or hear about very often. I'll give you an example, a concrete example. I used to work for a big Linux firm, one of the few giant Linux firms, right? When I worked for that firm, we regularly would go to other events and host our own big conferences and events. And when that was happening, we invited journalists in to join us. Now, what do we do in order to make sure that those journalists, those tech journalists, write about our company favorably? Not just do they cover what we're talking about, but they write about it with glowing praise, where we can tilt it, we can slant everything towards being favorable towards our company. Well, what we do is we pay for the journalists to fly in. We do that regularly. Now, I haven't done this for years because I haven't been in this business for years, but when I was, this is what we did. We flew the journalists in. We pay for their planes. We pay for their hotels. We put them in the hotel with us. So they're at the nice hotel. We put them in a decent room. We make sure of that. And then we set up events for the journalists. private events, ones that we don't talk about publicly, but we wine and dine the pants off of them. Not just take them out to a nice steak and get them some wine, though we do buy them nice steaks, the fanciest, expensivest steaks we can find, and the most fancy bottles of wine, copious amounts of wine that we can muster. But we also make sure we take them out and have fun with them. I took journalists out indoor skydiving. We literally took a whole bunch of journalists out there go-kart racing just randomly. Now, the whole point of this is to make them become our friends. To when they sit down to write an article about us, they think in the back of their head, these companies, they're my friend. They take me go-kart racing. They take me indoor skydiving. They take me to all-you-can-eat buffets. They buy me the fanciest porterhouse steak and a big old bottle of the craziest wine. And we did this every single event over and over again. We'd have press rooms set up with regularly coming in, bagels and lox and cream cheese and food spreads and drinks and mini fridges and alcohol beverages and fancy sparkling waters and everything. And we put it all in there, and we make sure that they're happy. We have people dedicated to making sure that the journalists are happy 24/7 at these events, right? Because we want them to write good stuff about us. And then when they go back and they start writing, not only do they have all these wonderful feelings in their bodies about, oh my gosh, I love this company. They're my friends. They do such nice things for me. They basically bought me a vacation. It's like the third one they've done this year. But they pay the bills. When we're talking about the big companies, you look at the money they put around for advertising in podcast sponsorship, YouTube channel sponsorship, and YouTube advertising, Google AdSense sponsorship, and direct advertising placement inside, print publication and the likes. If you took that out, if you made that go away, the majority of the publications that are out there right now would disappear within days, because they're barely making it. I mean, when you look at, all of the big tech news websites, they are barely holding on. They're not raking in billions of dollars here. They are barely making it, and they cannot afford even a handful of weeks without that advertising revenue. So when you are an editor and you are assigning tasks to your writers, and you are writing for ZDNet or the Register or Wired or Verge or whatever, you are not going to write about articles that are going to rock that potential boat. You might write a couple of halfway sort of critical articles about an unrelated topic to the tech company, but only if it's offset by fluff. And you can see this if you look through any of these websites and you say you want to look at Mozilla or IBM or Red Hat or any big tech, Microsoft, any of these big tech companies, you will find the critical articles are not that critical. Right? The critical articles will mention a couple of complaints and then fill in the gaps there with a little bit of happy sauce, right? So it's not that bad. It's an easy to digest little tiny bit of criticism about something that's not necessarily all that important. And then, even though they didn't really do anything all that critical, they still have to offset it to make sure that those big companies are really happy. And so what you'll find is article after article on all of these sites are essentially rewritten press releases from the company. And sometimes they're rewritten just a little bit and it's really blatant. Sometimes they'll do a better job of it and they'll create a much more of a lavish, lengthy article that will have potentially some interesting tidbits thrown in amongst the rewritten press releases. But it's always from the point of view of the company, ultimately. And you can see that every step of the way. So when these companies are putting those advertising dollars into all of these news outlets, the ones I've mentioned here and so many others, big and small. I mean it, podcasters, YouTubers, and the like. The primary motivation is not to sell to new customers. It is not. That's a bonus if it happens. Hopefully, a lot of times what companies will do is they'll try and measure incoming leads and try and see how many convert into actual sales to try and justify future additional ad spend. However, the primary motivation is strictly to control the journalists, to control the YouTubers, to control the podcasters. And you see the results in that. Right now, I mean, the Lunduke Journal is the only outlet covering a lot of these stories, a lot of the stories about IBM and Red Hat and Microsoft and a bunch of others. And the reason for that is I don't take any marketing dollars. They can't control me. I specifically have a point, and I've been invited many, many times to go to many different events from many different companies since I started the Lunduke Journal. I say no. They want to fly me out and pay for me to fly out there to wherever their event is. I say no. If I want to go, if I feel it's important enough, I'll find a way to get out there. And I'm just not going to do that. Companies have offered to fund the Lunduke Journal, and it would make my life a million times easier. If I allowed companies to come in and fund the Lunduke Journal, I would make 10 times the amount of money I'm making right now. The Lunduke Journal right now holds on by a thread, just like many of the other outlets out there. But the Lunduke Journal is also bigger than many of the other outlets seem to think we are. That said, if I took the money from those companies, I would make a lot more money, a lot more money. But if I did that and I became dependent on that income, which most of these outlets are fully dependent on that income, I would no longer be in a place where I could effectively and honestly report on those companies, right? If IBM wines and dines me and buys me steaks and bottles of wine and takes me go-kart driving and indoor skydiving and everything else, and then puts a banner up on my site and pays me $10,000 a month for it, and I'm like, well, okay, and then I become dependent on that $10,000 a month. I'm going to seriously rethink writing a negative story about IBM. And shoot, if you look back in December, I wrote some stories about IBM that would make milk curdle, right? It was honest, it was truthful, it was well-researched, but it was not positive towards IBM. And I could not have written those. I could not have published those if that were the case. So when you look out there right now, when you look out at all of the tech journalists that are out there, and again, I'm talking about YouTubers, podcasters, and all of them. If they take any money at all through marketing, through advertising networks, or through direct corporate sponsorships, any of it, you know without a doubt that they are compromised. It's not, and it doesn't matter how good the intentions are of that journalist. I used to take corporate sponsorships. I was compromised when I did that. And it wasn't that I was bad. It wasn't that my intentions were bad. I was just trying to keep the lights on and keep producing good shows. But I had ISPs and, VPN networks and domain registrars and hardware companies and software firms and everything. They were advertising on my shows that were going up on YouTube and elsewhere. And I did my very best to stay independent in that light. That said, it absolutely compromised my ability to cover not just the companies that funded me, but any company related to the companies that funded me. Example. Here's an example. Dell, right? Dell Computers, they make laptops and all sorts of things. Let's say, hypothetically, this show was sponsored by Dell. Okay, so now you would expect Lunduke's not going to cover Dell critically. Okay, no, I don't cover Dell very often, so that maybe wouldn't change that much. Now, what businesses do Dell do business with? Well, they do business with Canonical, Canonical makers of Ubuntu Linux. If I criticize Ubuntu Linux heavily and then promote Dell as my sponsored brand, as the company that keeps the lights on, you know what? I'm going to tell you flat out, the head of Canonical is going to send an email to someone over at Dell complaining about that. That's going to happen. That absolutely is going to happen. I've done work with companies before, and they've gotten calls from the head of the Linux Foundation because I was critical of the Linux Foundation. So the head of the Linux Foundation, Jim Zemlin, got a hold of the companies that I was doing work for, or the companies that were advertising on my show, and said, you need to stop him from doing this. That absolutely happened multiple times. And when you start to really drill down, who else does business with Dell? Well, Microsoft does business with Dell. I now am in a position where I really can't be honest about Microsoft either. You end up playing 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon, but it's really like 1 or 2 degrees because most of these companies are intertwined in some way and do business with one another. And so the moment you're taking advertising dollars from almost any of them, you're done. You are absolutely done. And some of these news outlets, God bless them. Some of these news outlets will make a point of, well, if you think that just because we allow an advertiser to give us money, that's going to impact our journalism, then you clearly don't know what kind of great journalists we are. They're lying to themselves, most likely. They're simply not being honest with themselves. A great example is the Register. The Register writes some quality reporting from time to time. From time to time, they write some excellent journalism where they go deep into multiple topics, both historical, technical, current. It's quality. But you'll also notice that there are topics that may be huge that directly impact the IT industry, which the Register needs to be covering, that they won't touch because it will make their advertisers sad. And you don't have to throw a rock very far before you hit one of those topics. Just look at the last couple of months. The last 2 months alone, December and January, massive stories impacting IBM, Red Hat, Microsoft, and others that the Register will not touch. They know about them. They know they're the biggest stories happening in that entire industry, but they will not touch them because their influence has been bought. That is the purpose of the marketing. Not to get new customers, not to get more people aware of their brand. Those are all good things. Those are bonuses. Those are a little extra gravy. That's the cherry on top. But the purpose for these big tech companies is strictly to buy fully the obedience of journalists and tech news outlets. It is off the charts. I used to do it. I saw it. I still see it happening from every direction, from the journalist direction and the marketing direction. I've seen it from both sides. I know exactly what the goal is. And I guarantee you, most of these companies behind closed doors, they're having discussions about, can they influence this journalist to say this about them? Can they influence this other journalist to say this about them or to not cover this story? Can we use our influence on this journalist to make him wait before he publishes this story for a while? That's the truth. And I don't know of any sizable tech company that doesn't do this. Now, for little tiny, like 2-person startup tech companies, advertising is a very different game. They aren't looking to buy that influence so much at that level. They're really looking for people to find out that they exist. But when you're talking about the bigger firms, the IBMs and Red Hats and Microsofts and Amazons and VMware and Oracle and everyone else that's in that category, this is what it's all about. They control the tech news narrative. And anyone who tells you otherwise either has not worked in marketing and journalism, I'm telling you straight out, they haven't, because they would know, or they're lying to themselves or to you. End of story. There's just no way. Once you've worked in this industry, once you've worked from the marketing side, you know exactly what's happening here. And so a lot of people will ask me, Lunduke, why won't you, take sponsorship from non-tech companies? Like I've seen some podcasts get sponsored by credit cards and all sorts of things. Because again, you end up playing 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon. Does that company do business with Oracle? Most likely. Does that company that processes, credit cards or does real estate transactions, do they do business with Microsoft and Amazon? Probably. And so you very quickly get a 1 or 2 step scenario where you're 1 or 2 steps away from the companies that your publication is there to critically cover. So I simply cannot take advertising dollars, which is why we only do subscriptions at the Lunduke Journal. That's why we only handle subscriptions. That's it. And it's difficult, and this is why you don't see any other publications doing it. It's very difficult to accomplish, but the results kind of speak for themselves. If you haven't grabbed your subscription yet, go grab your subscription. Go to lunduke.com and click on the links and subscribe. Please subscribe. Those of you who have, you keep the lights on here, right? Hold on. See that? Lights just went out. Boom. Lights are out now at the Lunduke Journal. That's what happens if people subscribe. That was a random thing to do, but the switch was there, so I had to do it. What I would recommend is that you hold people accountable. The journalists, the editors, the outlets that are specifically covering all of these big tech companies, hold them accountable. Why are you not covering these topics? Tell us why. Don't tell us that you decided not to. Tell us specifically why you think these, because come on, if you look at what the Lunduke Journal posted in December and early January, they're huge stories. They're huge, groundbreaking, salacious, cause a ton of traffic stories. The only which normally these outlets would go for, but the only reason they wouldn't is if they're trying to help those companies. You know it's true. I know it's true. Hold them accountable, because I truly believe, knowing all these people, that there are some quality journalists out there, but they're compromised. They may not even fully consciously realize it themselves, but they are. So what we need to do is we need to help break a few of them free from that, because I can't do this all on my own. I can't be the only journalist out there that can effectively spend his time trolling through the IRS records and annual reports for and getting these massive whistleblower leaks and whatnot for IBM and the Linux Foundation, Mozilla and Wikimedia and everything else. I can't be the only one covering these folks. I can't be the only one. I mean, as much as I want to be the only game in town, if we're really looking at it from the point of view of what's good for the tech industry, what's good for us as computer users, what's good for us as people who are software developers, what do we need? We need multiple people with multiple viewpoints, people that won't agree with me, but who are able to speak critically, to speak truth to power. Because currently we don't have that. Nothing at Wired, The Register, Verge, ZDNet, any of them. They just don't. And I've yet to see a sizable YouTube channel cover the biggest stories of the year. I've yet to see a sizable podcast. I mean, other than the Lunduke Journal, of course, but I've yet to see anyone else cover any of this. I haven't seen it. They can't. So here's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that this lights a little bit of a fire. This is something that I'm going to keep pushing for a while. I need to write an article about this. I need to post on social media networks about this. I've been poking the Register and ZDNet and a few others, and I'm going to keep at it, because people need to be fully aware that there are significant stories happening that are specifically being kept from the broader tech populace by the tech media, the tech mainstream media, if you will. They are effectively lying to all of us. And it is a problem. It is a big problem. So my hope is if I keep at it, one or two, just one or two of the good journalists that do work at some of those major outlets will either break free and go independent and can start covering things, which I would fully support and I would put my backing behind them, even if they disagreed with me on a lot of topics. I would encourage people to subscribe to them. I would reshare out their content. But there ain't no one. I'm it. Or even better, I would love to see one of the big outlets try and make a concerted effort to wean themselves completely off of advertisements and move to a subscription model or something else. I would support that as well. Again, even if they worldview and politically totally disagreed with me, I want to see some honesty. I want to see some real damned journalism from someone else but me. And that's not me saying I'm some fancy pants journalist. I'm no crazy good journalist. I'm just simply the only one that's not bought. That's insane. That's insane. That the guy who likes dad jokes and half the time just wants to write satire pieces is the one that's coming out and doing the actual journalism. It's ridiculous. So if you're out there, and I know those of you who write for a lot of the outlets I've talked about and a few others are watching and listening right now, get a hold of me. Talk to me about this. I can provide you some help. I can provide you with ideas on how to break free from the control that IBM and Microsoft and Amazon and Oracle and all the other ones have over the content that you write. It's not easy to do. It's hard, but it's worth it. It's worth it. That's that right there, ladies and gentlemen. That's that thing. That's that thing that I just did. Have to talk about it. Have to be talked about. You know what I'm saying? You can't not talk about this stuff. It's got to get covered. If I shoot, it's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. All right. What do I need to do here? There we go. Thank you guys for hanging out as I recorded these today. The recorded versions of those will be up later on this evening. And yeah, should be pretty good. There's not going to be any new articles until next Monday. So this week, I wanted to get this particular show out now. This week is really kind of a show heavy week. So we're doing this right now. Tomorrow at noon Central, we'll be doing the Untitled Nerdy Chat Show. Actually, just one guest. And we're going to be talking about a lot of topics, but all in a particular area. And I'm really looking forward to that one because it's a topic that is very near and dear to me. So I think you guys are going to enjoy it. So tune in for that tomorrow. And then on Thursday, again, 4 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. UTC, we're going to do Linux Sucks. I'm pretty excited about that. That's going to be a good show. It's just going to be fun. I mean, you guys know what to expect. I mean, you don't know what to expect. I mean, every Linux Sucks show has its own thing. Like I've tried to make every show, at least since like 2016 hit, I've tried to make every show after that have its own style or its own thing about it. But you kind of know what to expect. It's going to be good. It's going to be a lot of Linux sucking. I am going to annoy Canonical again. I'm going to hear about it again. I always do. They've come to expect it. It's all good. But it should be a lot of fun. So that's gonna be fun. And then that show will go up. The recorded version will go up sometime late Thursday night for me into early Friday morning. And then Friday morning and Friday will be me pumping out little clips and things like that and promotions of Linux Sucks and whatnot to get everyone out there over on like the social medias and whatnot, grabbing it. And I'll be sending out press releases and everything. So I'm going to be kind of swamped doing all that on Friday. Then on Monday, here, let me see if I've got this here. We've got it. We're getting back. We're going to be switching from a very show heavy week this week to a very article heavy week next week. I'm going to be announcing the themed week stuff. We're going to be figuring all that out, but I'm going to be putting the schedule together over the next couple of days and this coming weekend. And then so next week we'll announce what the themed weeks are going to be. That's going to be a bunch of fun. But then the articles, I'm going to do an article around the show that we just recorded here because it needs to be pounded on. I mean, we need to. We keep going with this one. We can't let up on this because it almost doesn't matter what else we talk about, because as long as I'm the only one covering these topics, and not just these topics, but any topic that gets sufficiently critical, because you'll notice, like I'll cover topics around Mozilla. It's not even getting political. It's just monetary issues. And Linux Foundation, we're talking monetary issues and where does the money go, right? But it gets so critical that no one else wants to pick up on it because everyone's afraid of the 800-pound gorilla falling out of their graces, right? So they won't cover it. And so as long as it's just me, it means that we're going to be missing stories because I can't cover everything. I just can't. I'm gonna miss stuff. I'm probably right now missing a story that's even bigger than the ones that we've published over the last year. And we've published some big stories, but there's probably even bigger ones and different ones about different companies. It's not even on my radar right now. The reality is there's a lot to cover. And unless we get some of these other journalists covering it from whatever angle, we're going to be missing out on this stuff and we're not going to get good accurate coverage. We're going to do we're going to do an article that just is kind of fun. I can't remember who it is off the top of my head, but someone posted over on Locals talking about Microsoft and backwards compatibility. And that kind of got me thinking about Microsoft's approaches to backwards compatibility. Because I mean, I worked there in multiple areas of Microsoft for many years, so I know the approach. And there's actually some interesting things in there that I want to explore a little bit. So we'll be looking at that a little bit next week. We've got some history pieces. We've got one history piece that's coming up next week that I think people are going to giggle about. Oh yeah, that one. Oh, you know what? I'm not even going to tease that one. I'm just gonna say flat out that one's going to be fun. And I think we'll have a good time. But it's going to be a very article heavy week. So we're going to be having some not a lot of articles, but big articles, heavy articles. Right, some intense stuff, but also some very fun stuff. So we're gonna get into some of the history. We're gonna get into some more philosophical stuff, and we're gonna get into some very just intense topics. So, so get ready to read next week, but enjoy your break from reading this week as we just do shows for the next 2 days. So enjoy that. All right, that's it, everybody. I'm gonna go head on and cut these shows up and post them everywhere. But I hope all of you have a fantastic evening wherever the heck you're at. You're all amazing and wonderful nerds. And with that, I bid you adieu.